when I'm not debuting my cinematic origin story of the Salty Blues comment.
Some time ago, there was a charming young boy with a twinkle in his eye and a lofty goal in his heart.
My name's Sean, and I'm going to be a great blues guitar player.
And oh, how that boy grew. He grew into a strong and handsome, yet intelligent and very down-to-earth man. At once classically handsome and macho, as a man ought to be, but at the same time, the kind of guy that a girl could really open up and talk to on a lonely night.
Do I really have to read all this?
Do you want the $20 or not?
No, I wouldn't do it. Anyway, he kind of figured out how to play a passable version of blues guitar. His lifelong goal achieved, he felt a deep sense of duty to share all he had learned on his journey with those who had yet to reach the mountaintop via a free, laid-back YouTube page centered around a community of affluent and talented ladies and gentlemen. With each video being uploaded to the soundtrack of universal praise and support, the audience grew. As the stakes increased ever higher, so did the risks, culminating in a bold attempt to learn every blues song ever in 8 minutes. While being an obvious tongue-in-cheek attempt at reaching a rudimentary 12-bar blues lesson, the snobbish yet wise blues community recoiled in disgust at such an ignorant claim. Once the golden boy of the internet guitar community, his brashness became his downfall as the elite gatekeepers of the blues craft descended from their ivory towers to justly serve his comeuppance. Hotbeds of intellectual thought, known for their class and tact, like Reddit and the Ultimate Guitar User Forum, turned to venomous arenas of hatred. And so, the Salty Blues comment was born. Careful and thoughtful insights crafted with acumen and savvy, eschewing spelling and grammar to get at the heart of what it truly meant to play the blues. A broken man, Sean now realized how little he had known. Tasting the bitterness of failure for the first time in his storied and celebrated life, the mission was clear. Unearth the origin of the Salty Blues comment. Hitting the books with the fervor and grit of a blind Lemon Jefferson turnaround, his studies led him further and further back in time, and further from home. Alas, there was only so much to be gleaned from scripture. It was time to hit the pavement and travel to the saltiest place on earth, the great salt flats of Peru. Perhaps the answers were hidden there. To get there was no easy task. How do you visit a place where planes refuse to fly? Trains and automobiles had been banned long ago. The search must be had upon foot through the mountains of South America. Many perils were to be had along the way. Food poisoning would strike, which his brother was kind enough to document the necessary butt injection antidote. Yet new friends were made along the way. And then one day, the fresh mountain air turned heavy. The great salt flats were found at 3,000 meters high and almost 2,000 years old. These magnificent ponds of pure salt were created by Peruvian masters who were feeling very bluesy after the fall of the Incan Empire. Falling to his knees, Sean demanded answers, but this was not the end of the line. To know the true origin of blues, the trail pointed to Machu Picchu. Undeterred, the journey continued through the ruins of a once mighty civilization. Climbing higher and higher over treacherous land, enormous and mystical stone tablets revealed the birthplace of true cornerstones of the blues. The one, the four, and the five. Sensing the journey was coming to an end, he pressed onward, arriving at an enchanted stone, the legend of which claimed to reveal a blues secret that only the worthy could see. You have to feel the blues.
I like to answer questions I get on YouTube, so let's get to it. Looking forward to the blues letter. 2 quick questions. Who has a better beard, Billy Gibbons or Chris Stapleton? And who sang Hurt better, Trent Reznor or Johnny Cash? So 2 great beards, in my opinion. 2 of the all-time great music beards, honestly. No offense to Chris Stapleton's beard, but I gotta go with Billy Gibbons' beard. If not only because it is so charismatic that it takes away from the weird Halloween costume hat that he always wears and no one ever really talks about it. So I'm gonna go with ZZ Top for the best beard. and just because it's so iconic. Even though Chris Stapleton is climbing the ranks of great beards, as far as who sang Hurt Better, I gotta go with the Man in Black, Johnny Cash. Only because that was kind of an anonymous song until Cash just kind of crushed it, and now he's actually more known for that song than even Nine Inch Nails is. So almost to the point that it's overplayed in a weird way. But yeah, Billy Gibbons, Johnny Cash. Kindly upload videos with less usage of words, please. People don't get much time. Even we give up practicing seeing so long words. Tune is important, technique is important, not massive words, dude. Wake up! True to form, fantastic Salty Blues comment this week. Kind of hard to teach guitar tutorials without using any words, but I'll try to do better. Choose shorter words is something I'll do. Maybe I'll kind of like shorten sentences to be more compact. And I don't know, whatever. Would you ever get an offset Fender Jazzmaster Jag Mustang? So if you don't know what an offset guitar is, usually it refers to the body, and it's where like the top part will be forward more and the bottom part will be back more, or vice versa. And generally they're designed to kind of sit better, kind of like a Jazzmaster. Now, it's not that I would never get an offset Fender, but if I would, it'd probably be like a Jazzmaster with P90s, just because I'm so not down with all the controls on the Jag and the Mustang and stuff like that. But maybe someday with the Jazzmaster. I've played them a few times, and P90s are kind of like a cool sound. If you've never tried them out, definitely go into a music store and check them out, because they are kind of this interesting gray area between like a Strat and like a humbucking thing. So check those out if you ever get a chance. Maybe I'll get one. Also too, I just like the sound of the name Jazzmaster. In fact, maybe in my older years, I'll try to like claim the title, the throne of the Jazzmaster. But you know, that's for down the road. Hey Sean, could you possibly do an elaboration on the drum track versus metronome thing you mentioned? My timing needs work, but listening to a metronome all the time is pretty awful. Would love to know how to fully utilize a drum track for practice. As always, thank you for your awesome channel. So we've mentioned this before, as far as like playing with a metronome. Playing to a click track metronome is fantastic, great way to practice. Definitely not for everybody because it gets kind of annoying. And also too, there's such a lack of vibe when you do that you lose out when you play with other musicians. So me and Ian have been a fan of telling people to practice to actual drum tracks online. Because like if you're just practicing to a metronome, it's like click, 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 click. What you're really training is to hit that downbeat really well, which is awesome, and that's something every musician needs to learn. But the notes in between the downbeats are where all the vibe is. So that's where playing along with the track or with a drum track, you get so much better and more efficient, more realistic practice, because it's all those, everything in between the downbeats is where, like I said, that's where like the magic kind of happens. So, I mean, and I'm guilty of this too, or was, probably still am, but as far as really kind of like hitting the syncopation to vibe with the drum kit or any kind of other instrument, it's really all about the stuff that's happening in there, instead of like playing robotically like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and just kind of having that little like slightly offbeat, playing in triplets and just kind of adding that vibe and that groove to something is something that you can only really get while playing with either other musicians or just like a nasty drum track or any kind of internet track. So there's a million of them online. I would say maybe just, you know, if you have a few minutes, fire one up, rock along with it, and you'll kind of see where maybe you can match what the drummer's doing in a musical way, and your playing will just take off from there. I have a question in regards to Radiohead, as I know you're a huge fan. I was a big fan of their earlier albums, but started to lose interest when they went to electronica. Although A Moon-Shaped Pool is one of my favorite albums ever. I know they're all awesome musicians, but are you a fan from the guitar perspective or their overall musical composition? I can enjoy certain aspects of, say, Kid A, but then find King of Limbs unlistenable. Could you give an insight as to why they're one of your favorite bands as opposed to Led Zeppelin, which is a far more understandable from a guitar perspective? Cheers. Always looking for an excuse to talk about Radiohead, and they're definitely one of those bands that the guitar aspect of it is not really why I listen to it. Obviously, Johnny Greenwood, one of my favorite players. I talk about him a lot. The guitar stuff is absolutely nasty, but you're right, like on Kid A, that's not like a guitar showcase album, even though there are incredible moments for sure. Also, King of Limbs, probably my least favorite one too, after Pablo Honey, for sure. Which is, you know, not an unpopular opinion. But I think it's just the way that those guys kind of come together as a band that makes it a pretty special band. And really just how they all know their role. Like, Colin Greenwood as a bass player Incredible bass player, never flashes it off, always knows exactly what's perfect for the song. Phil Selway always just keeps like such a solid groove, which kind of gives Tom York the freedom to kind of float around the band and do more experimental things, but in like a solid rock-inspired pocket. So I think it's really, just like all great bands are, it's just like the sum of their individual parts that, you know, is so much greater when they kind of come together as far as just incredible musicians working together. Which again, some bands don't have the best pound for pound individual musicians, but what makes them special is when they come together and they mesh. So that's why I'm a big Radiohead fan. I know they're definitely not for everybody, but I also know that as my musicianship got better, I appreciated that band more. And that is a sentiment that I share with a lot of my musician friends. So some people call them like a musician's band, but for me, it's something that I appreciated a lot more once I started playing guitar and kind of getting more into it. Because before I started playing guitar, I would listen to them because everybody said they were so great, but I just didn't get it. So eventually there came a time that I just kind of understood, and I went all in, and I've been all in ever since. Again, not for everybody. What were your impressions of the Godin? Thanks. So if you watched the vlog that I did of one of the last gigs that me and Allie played on the rooftop, more of those coming soon, by the way, I switched from the Martin plugged in to a Godin nylon string Multiac, which I have noticed a big improvement in the quality of live sound from playing a nylon string. So I really do not like the sound of an acoustic guitar with electronics kind of going over like a loudspeaker. I mean, there are ways to make it sound great, but I've always had a hard time getting like a really representative acoustic guitar tone. It just always sounds too bright, too thin, kind of wimpy. You just kind of deal with it because it's such a pain to mic up an actual acoustic guitar, which is what I would always prefer to do. But when you're kind of doing everything, you don't have a sound guy and you're just doing like an acoustic duo thing for these gigs, it really is, it's really a chore to mic up an acoustic guitar and then make sure it's optimized to not feedback and everything. So it is, you know, it's something you just kind of have to deal with. I didn't really like the sound I was getting out of the Martin, so I borrowed my buddy Andreas's Godin Multiac, which he uses all the time for his shows, and I really like it. I like it a lot. I think I actually might get one, so stay tuned because I'll probably run you through the paces once I actually do get one, and you can kind of hear the difference yourself. So for listening homework this week, I'm going to throw you to the new album by my boy Mesita, fantastic musician, incredibly underappreciated. His last couple albums have just been killing it. Big fan of this one too. So make sure to go over on that page, show him some love, and as always, any comments or questions you have, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website, and sign up for the Blues Letter, and I will talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.